Nigeria's COVID-19 tally nears 35,000. President Buhari orders investigation of Niger Delta Development Commission saga. In international news, fingers pointed at Russia for attempts to hack COVID-19 vaccine trials. And in sport, FIFA releases timetable for Qatar 2022.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The COVID-19 pandemic has been bearing down on the country as infection figures have been stuck in the mid to high three digits for some time now. The National Center for Disease Control recorded 595 new cases on Thursday, raising the national tally to 34,854. On just a few occasions was Lagos knocked off as the state with the highest number of cases. It has held on to its epicenter status by recording 156 of the new cases on Thursday. Ondo State followed with 95 cases. This brings the tally for Lagos State to 13,097. During its daily briefing on Thursday, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 urged Nigerians to seize this time of the pandemic to improve their entrepreneurial skills to ensure that once the pandemic has been defeated, the country would record growth. Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the PTF, Boss Mustapha, made the suggestion during the briefing in reaction to a study by the Nigerian Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development to check the influx of substandard goods into the market. Plateau State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Ninkong Law, says 57 health workers have been infected with COVID-19 in the state while performing their duties in various health facilities. During an executive council meeting in Jos earlier this week, Law said the infected health personnel were managing COVID-19 patients in primary health centers, hospitals, and private clinics across the state. Law stated the state was organizing voluntary community testing in the 17 local government areas with a schedule to test government and non-governmental organizations. Commissioner for Information and Communication Dan Manjong said civil servants who refused to submit to COVID-19 tests would face disciplinary action. He said the tests are not voluntary but compulsory for civil servants. COVID-19 pandemic has negatively intruded in just about every aspect of every nation's life, especially in food security. And Nigeria is not in isolation. As correspondent Kelechi Mekalam reports, COVID-19 has worsened food crisis in Nigeria.
Rose Chukwu, a mother of 10, has been struggling to earn a living from her petty trading business. She's one of those whose sources of livelihood have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now she makes an average of $4 daily from selling roasted corn, barely enough to get food for her household.
It's very difficult because sometimes I have to depend on stipends and freebies from strangers. That's how I'm surviving with my children. Especially during the quarantine, people from my son's church donate food for us. Sometimes, when we have nothing to eat, we buy cassava flakes and drink it before bed.
Rice, beans, and groundnut oil and the tomatoes inside. Sometimes I may buy garri half mudu or 2 or 3 cups, then we drink.
The devastating impact of COVID-19 is being felt around the world. The WFP projects that food insecurity could double by the end of the year. So it's eager to increase assistance to the most affected communities. But it will cost the WFP about $4.9 billion to sustain this huge increase of people in need of support that shot up from last year's 97 million people.
Well, the COVID pandemic is creating a hunger pandemic. In fact, we've gone from now 135 million people on the brink of starvation to 270 million people. And while we've got to have a vaccine for COVID, we do have a vaccine for hunger and starvation, and that's the World Food Program. So we need support right now, and if we don't we don't get that support, you can imagine death rates, starvation, mass migration by necessity, and exploitation by extremists.
The impact had long been felt in Nigeria before the coronavirus outbreak. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that about 7 million people will experience food shortage across 13 states. That situation has been worsened by the Boko Haram insurgency and continuing conflict between farmers and herders. But the figures, exacerbated by COVID-19, are rapidly rising.
The intervention that is needed at the moment is for government to have a state of emergency in agriculture. It's very, very, very key and important. Now, agriculture should be a grassroots topic. Everybody needs to have a food bank.
Food prices are on the rise, far beyond the reach of a majority like Rose, whose incomes have been cut off or reduced significantly. The Nigerian government introduced its stimulus package to help households and small businesses hardest hit by the adverse impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But many say they are yet to benefit from that assistance.
President Muhammadu Buhari has directed security and investigating agencies operating in conjunction with the National Assembly on the Niger Delta Development Commission investigation to ensure there is speedy and coordinated action. The president says this would guarantee that the administration's efforts to bring sanity, transparency and accountability to the management of the large amounts of resources dedicated to the development of the sub-region would not be derailed. Buhari was reacting to the unfolding events in the sub-region. He referred to attacks and counterattacks between and around persons, institutions and the Niger Delta Development Commission. The president said he is determined to get to the root of the problem that is undermining the development of the Niger Delta and its people, in spite of the recurring enormous national resources voted for that purpose yearly. The federal government has begun probing missing funds at the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund. A presidential joint board and audit investigation panel was inaugurated on Thursday by Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige to check perceived infractions on the Financial Regulations, Procurement Act, Public Service Rules and other relevant and extant documents from 2015 to 2019. The directive will stretch into a probe of cases of gross misconduct of officers. The panel is chaired by Ibrahim Khalil of the Nigeria Labour Congress. It is scheduled to complete its assignment within 3 weeks in the first instance.
Coming up, African news. Talks on the Nile Dam fail again. And later, international news. Russia accused of trying to hack information in COVID-19 vaccine trials.
You are watching ANN.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very, very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills. I beg, I want frills on mine. But it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown.
Me too. I want to come to bang.
You don't want GMS and this for coming.
Hey, did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually.
Fantastic!
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Kenya's Mombasa to Nairobi railway service has been reopened after being shut down as a result of restricted movement during COVID-19 lockdown in the country. This is expected to help in reviving domestic tourism. The country started domestic air travel on Wednesday and plans to reopen its airspace to international travel on August the 1st.
Kenya has resumed operations on a railway route linking its major cities of Mombasa and Nairobi. The reopening comes after nearly 100 days of closure due to the pandemic. Passengers are required to observe physical distancing, wear masks, wash their hands, and have their temperatures taken. Ticket payments are done online. Many citizens have welcomed this move.
It's faster, it's conducive, there's social distancing. Yeah, and it's good that we are returning the economy back. Yeah.
You don't feel like risky to
get on the train? I trust the train. I trust my service.
The social distancing is okay because this is one of the biggest measures that needs to be put in place. And it's just about the passengers now to follow the measures so that we stay safe, all of us.
You see, passengers are coming. They're going from Nairobi to Mombasa. I think there's exchange in currency in thing, and it makes the economy grow.
Train staff must wear full sets of protective gears, and all those working for the railway must take a COVID-19 test before coming back to work.
Tanzania has announced it has shut down most of its COVID-19 treatment centers because there has been a significant drop in the number of coronavirus infections in the country. Health Minister Umi Uwalumi says there are now only 11 centers, including private health centers, that are open nationwide. There were 85 centers, and correspondent Isaac Lucando has more.
Tanzania's government has closed many of its centers designated to treat coronavirus patients across the country. It claims that the number of coronavirus patients at the centers has fallen, with some reporting zero COVID-19 admissions in over a month. However, it is asking the public to remain cautious. On the streets of Dar es Salaam, business is returning to normal. President John Magufuli also ordered the reopening of schools on the 29th of June after 3 months of closure.
I feel good because I am a businesswoman. Before the closures, I feared seeking and distributing my products, but when I heard about the closing of the centers, it gave me confidence. I am grateful to the Tanzanian government because I can now source my products and distribute it to my clients.
News of the closure of COVID-19 centres is comforting. It's giving us the courage to go on with our activities, business, work. The government has even agreed to reopen schools, so for us this problem has reduced.
While Tanzania has lifted its COVID-19 restrictions, the World Health Organization has raised concerns that if such measures are relaxed too quickly, COVID-19 cases could start increasing rapidly. Due to concerns about COVID-19, the US and British embassies in Tanzania have asked their personnel and families to exercise caution in their day-to-day activities. Some of their nationals have left the country. However, the government says Tanzania is safe. It has reopened its skies, allowing international flights and tourist activity to resume. The World Bank recently declared Tanzania a lower middle-income country. The government hopes the closure of its COVID-19 treatment centers will allow the country to focus more energy and resources on maintaining and growing its economy even further.
Talks among Egypt, Ethiopia and the Sudan to resolve the dispute over the operation of a Nile dam being built by Ethiopia have deadlocked again. Egypt says the dam would reduce its life or death share of the river's waters. The Sudan is concerned a structural breach in the dam could flood large areas of its territory. And Ethiopia wants to reassure Egypt and the Sudan that the dam was essential to ending poverty in the Horn of Africa. And correspondent Gurun Chala is on the story.
The leaders of Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan were hopeful that the African Union brokered talks on Ethiopia's mega dam could help end a decade-long dispute. The latest round of talks have, however, ended without any agreement on the way forward. Ethiopia's government says it will not agree to any deal that jeopardizes its people's long-term interest in the Nile waters.
They are insisting on foreclosing the future use of the Nile River for the coming generations of Ethiopia, which Ethiopia cannot succumb to. This is an agreement that Ethiopia cannot take because Ethiopia would like to use it. Ethiopia does have a rightful share of the Nile River. Ethiopia should use it, should utilize it.
Ethiopia plans to begin filling what will become Africa's largest hydropower generating dam. It aims to generate 700 megawatts of electricity right after filling its initial reservoir.
Basically, Ethiopia has started this dam. The dam is being built, and it's being built to be filled. Definitely, when the time comes, it's to be filled. I think His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, has said it very well when he reported to the Parliament.
In the meantime, Addis Ababa maintains it wants to resolve any differences with Nile downstream nations such as Egypt through an African-led initiative.
Ethiopia believes and has a big respect for African wisdom. Africa has a big wisdom. Africa can deal with its own problem by itself, and we don't see a need for taking an African issues to the other part of the world.
The timetable for the filling and operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam remains the main contentious issue between Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia. Ethiopia has time and again insisted the completion of the dam will benefit all countries including Egypt and Sudan.
When we return, international news. Russia accused of trying to hack information on COVID-19 vaccine trials. And later, sport. FIFA releases timetable for Qatar 2022.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The United Kingdom, the United States and Canada have accused Russia's Cozy Bear of trying to hack information and attack academic and pharmaceutical research institutions involved in coronavirus vaccine development. They say the group that is also known as APT-29 is believed to be part of the Russian intelligence service. Britain's National Cybersecurity Center made the announcement, which was coordinated with authorities in the US and Canada. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says it is unacceptable that the Russian intelligence services are targeting those working to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Raab says Moscow is pursuing selfish interests with reckless behavior. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany further says this Russian behavior is not new. European Union leaders are coming together in Brussels on Friday to try reaching an agreement on the budget and economic stimulus fund. This will be their first face-to-face summit in 5 months, but many are hopeful that we will be able to iron out their differences on a post-coronavirus economic rescue plan. The coronavirus crisis has plunged the EU into a historic economic crunch. Officials have drawn up plans for an $850 billion stimulus package to alleviate countries out of the economic downturn caused by lockdowns. The Netherlands Prime Minister Mark Rutte says stands against giving out cash to their southern neighbors without strict conditions. Friday's talks are expected to run into Saturday and perhaps even Sunday, but many are expecting a breakthrough. India's COVID-19 cases have exceeded 1 million, and authorities have begun reimposing lockdowns in many parts of the country to shield the health system from being overwhelmed. India has now recorded more than 25,000 COVID-19 deaths, a number experts believe could rise further because of limited testing and poor surveillance. A 2-week lockdown that started on Thursday has been imposed in Bihar, an eastern state with a fragile health system and a population of 128 million. 2.5 million poor migrant workers who had been stranded during India's initial nationwide lockdown have returned to the state after losing their jobs in large cities. India's number of cases has been rising in recent weeks with nearly record daily surges. It overtook Russia earlier this month to occupy the third spot for the highest number of coronavirus cases globally. COVID-19 has destabilized economies around the world. In Latin, Central and Southern America, life has not been the same since the coronavirus pandemic began to ravage the countries. Life has taken a downturn for many Venezuelan refugees and migrants and their hosts, Peru. Correspondent Dan Collins has the story.
This has been home for a group of Venezuelans for the last 2 months. They've been left jobless, homeless and hungry by the COVID-19 pandemic. If they were making enough money to live and send home before, now they're barely surviving. Things were going well for these two Venezuelan brothers in Peru until the pandemic struck. After the first month of lockdown, their savings ran out, and they spent the last 2 months here on this corner just around the block from the Venezuelan embassy in Lima, where they're waiting for a flight home. They were working at a beach resort when the lockdown began nearly 4 months ago. Their entire income dried up. When they could no longer pay the rent, they came to the capital to seek help from their embassy. But they did not get it.
Those who have most helped us are just individuals, Peruvians, Venezuelans, Argentinians, everyone. They have seen what we're living through and they're helping us out from the goodness of their hearts.
The group was told that there might be a repatriation flight later this month, but are now undecided whether to take it, because the situation is likely worse in Venezuela.
When you find yourselves in trouble with your back against the wall, you want to run home. For us, home is Venezuela. I don't think the situation will be better there, but we've tried to get work here and there's nothing.
Meanwhile, they wait, knowing with millions of Peruvians also facing unemployment, there's little hope of them getting work. But while the Peruvian government has pledged to give cash transfers to millions of poor families, Venezuelan migrants have not been included.
Of the 870,000 or more Venezuelans living in the country, 90% are working in the informal economy. So the lockdown measures have impacted them hard because they could not go out and work.
As the looming recession increases poverty and inequality for millions of Peruvians, the future looks grim for migrants. Many also face the extra strain of discrimination and not being able to reunite with family members. Studies show these factors are driving a huge rise in mental health problems.
Up next, sports. FIFA releases timetable for World Cup 2022. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Spain says there is no possibility stadium fans will be able to return to football matches in the country when the new season starts in September. The country's sports ministry had hoped fans would return at a reduced capacity, but the threat of a rise in COVID-19 infections might prevent the move. La Liga resumed the season last Saturday behind closed doors and plans to start the 2020-2021 campaign in September. FIFA has released the schedule for the first World Cup to be played in November and December 2020. The World Cup will have 4 games every day in a 12-day group stage matches. host Qatar will open the Middle East's first World Cup in the 60,000 capacity stadium in November 2020. 8 venues will be used at the tournament, which will be played in 28 days rather than the 32 days used at the last World Cup in Russia. The 2022 World Cup final will be played at the Lusail Stadium in December 2022. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a safe weekend.